Well, he lost a little bit of time there. Until then, he was gaining quite quickly. This is Paul Hinton, managing to ride the last couple of inches to the summit of the mountain.
Which is what some riders will do sometimes. When the legs start to get a little bit hard and it is too difficult to run, they'll try and ride, and sometimes they lose a bit of time by riding instead of running.
So Hinton's over in 4th place, and Barry Clark is not too far behind him at the summit of the Old Barn. He'll be 5th, and that's Tim Davies, a very close-up 6th. So the riders behind Mike Closer have a lot to race for yet, because there's still a lot of places to gain, and they're all in sight of one another. Look at that, 2 of them over the top together. They're off down towards the deer farm, and they'll head down towards the gully at the bottom, and then it's into the woods. It looks, in fact, as though Mike Closer's already approaching the gully. Here he comes. Very gently, too, I might add, because it was here where he stumbled last time through, wasn't it, Paul?
It was, and this time he's not taking any risks at all. He's pulling away from Fred Salmon a little bit at the moment, and now you can see he's carrying his bike the same way. It's almost as if he's trying to drag his bike to the top of that climb.
So, Closer running on quite well, but where is Fred Salmon? He's lost a lot of ground in the last kilometre or so. Here's Fred, and it looks as though he has a flat back tyre.
Has anybody got a spare inner tube?
In fact, he's asking for a spare inner tube there, Fred Salmon. Now, I find that amazing, Paul, but he isn't carrying one with him, and all the riders should carry them.
Well, nearly all of the riders will have them with them as we look down here at Chris Young. But Fred's maybe tried to take a risk just because of the endurance of this race, because of the difficulty. He's tried to ride without a pump and without a spare tyre, and now he's trying to beg a spare tyre from the public, which is actually, I think, against the rules.
Well, that's sad. He can, in fact, take them, as far as I understand it, from an official on the course. He has to change it himself and get back in the race, but without one, then he's just going to continue to lose ground. And remember, they're all closing in behind. That's very, very sad indeed. Paul Hinton. Little wave there to the people cheering him on. That's Desaunay. Tim Fluke's in front. Desaunay in the green. And Alistair Martin, the boy from Northern Ireland, continuing to eat his way through the field. He's doing a great ride. Well, by now, their legs must be absolutely breaking. This is Kevin Sabiston here, whose bike frame matches his racing colours. Sounding more like a horse going through the splash there, Paul.
Well, it did, but it really is starting to get hard out there now. And any time at all, people could make a few mistakes.
Well, there's the famous castle in the centre of Loughlin Island. And this, a most beautiful part of the estate. We're penetrating deep into the estate now, and so too is Mike Closer. The drama all unfolding behind him, though, because poor Fred Salmon is continuing, and his back tyre is flat. This is really an amazing turn of luck for Fred. He was challenging Closer all the way, and now Chris Young is going to close in on Fred Salmon, because Fred has only just gone over the brow of that hill. Paul Hinton, I wonder if he knows of the drama up front, because he too is in 4th place. And the next man should be Tim Davies. Here he comes. And he'll be up into 5th. Well, where's Barry Clark gone? He, I think, has dropped out of it for the moment. He certainly has, because this is Raymond Desaunay here. Then Tim Flux, and then Alistair Martin. Barry Clark has gone missing at the moment. And that's sad. One can only assume, Paul, that he too has punctured, because he hasn't crashed.
Well, that's quite a possibility. There are 1 or 2 rocks sticking out on this course today. Because the rider's using smaller tyres, there is a problem with impact punctures.
Well, Closer now has got nobody with him. He may not even know that all the riders who he's ridden away from have had a problem of one sort or another. Remember, it was Steve Dowse that troubled him. Then he pulled a muscle. And now here's a picture of the other rider, Fred Salmon, who's continuing on the course with 20 kilometres to go and a flat back tyre. Closer then into the river for the second and final time. This is the deep one. Mike Closer very delicately coming across 2 rivers here, running into one. As Mike nips into the second one. It's rather him than me, I must be honest.
Well, that must be playing havoc with his muscles as he goes through there.
And look at this now, into second place, because Fred has dropped back. Fred Salmon has lost his second place. Chris Young has taken it. So Young has come right through the field now, and he is still closing on Mike Closer.
Well, this is the kind of ride that Chris Young is quite used to doing in the cyclocross circles in the winter. He might be able to, he might have paced himself properly, he might still be able to get up to Closer, but this looks like Closer flying across the moorlands.
So here's where we are on the right of our picture, heading up for the last time towards the top high point in the right-hand corner, and then we'll be round towards the finish. So we are 3/4 of the way round now on the second circuit, and Mike Closer is all alone and over the logs for the last time. And the crowd here loving every minute of it. No need to rush, he might feel. He doesn't want to slip off the logs. All the natural terrain has provided the mountain bikers with what they require. These bikes, by the way, just about anybody can ride them. Here's Chris Young in second place and still closing. This could be a great finish, because he's down to just over a minute now behind Mike Closer. He was over 3.5 at one stage. Tim Davies in third place. He's come right through from 6th or 7th earlier on. Maybe his promise to be the world's best mountain bike professional is beginning to show reality here.
Well, some of these riders really have paced themselves well, and there's a lot of change going on at the moment, and we're still coming into the final stages, and there could be a lot of crunch things to come.
So Closer now is approaching the finish. He's just got to pop out of the woods and he'll see the line. And I wonder if he knows that Chris Young is closing in on him very, very quickly indeed. Well, there's been some tough courses over the years for Mike. He, in fact, is the record holder over 25 hours, having won the famous race in Alaska that is normally run by the dog sleds. And they call it now the Iditarod race, and it's a part of the Iditarod dog sled race course in Alaska. 25 hours that took Closer, and now it looks as though his only challenger, and it's going to be a very late challenge, will come from Chris Young. There's Closer now, and he's on some good road at last. There's Chris Young chasing him. He's inside a minute, but Closer's glanced over his shoulder. He must know then that Chris Young is coming in on him, but it won't be quick enough, because last year's world champion is scoring his first ever victory in Scotland, and he's coming home a clear winner. He had Fred Salmon with him with a lap to go. Poor old Fred punctured. We'll never know what would have been the result there. But for Mike Closer, it's another victory in his cap, and it's the championship. Mike, you said that you do well, and you did. You cracked it today. What a ride.
Yeah. Ooh, it was a tough one. I didn't know what to think. I got a little tired near the end, but I think I did a good race.
What about Fred Salmon? He seemed to have all sorts of problems. He was giving you a few at one stage.
Yeah, he was going really well. I didn't know what to expect. I just figured I'd ride the first lap with whoever I could who was leading and try to take it off on the second lap, so it went well.
What about the rivers? They were a bit deep, weren't they?
Yeah, I was glad I didn't fall down in one. I might have been swept away.
And just 43 seconds have ticked away. Chris Young comes in second place. Chris, you always start midway, just like you do in British cyclocross. You've done it again today, but you really came good at the end, didn't you?
Well, I know that's how I start, pretty slow, so I just plan to pick the riders off throughout the race.
Now, you look as though you've got blood on your face there. Have you have a problem?
Yeah, I was trying a bit too hard down one of the hills, and I took flying lessons.
This was on the flat, it wasn't in the river anywhere. This was actually on the ground itself.
Oh yeah, down one of the heather descents. I just went off the track and I hit a big boulder, and I just got catapulted over the handlebars.
There were plenty of pitfalls in the heather today. There's the result. Mike Closer, the UK Mountain Bike champion. Chris Young second. Tim Davies third. Alistair Martin of Northern Ireland fourth. Barry Clark, despite a puncture, was sixth. And Paul Hinton, by the way, didn't finish. Retired, exhausted. Here are the women receiving their prize from David Edwards, the UK sponsorship manager of Carlsberg, and it's Sally Hibbard who takes first place there. And Jim Napier, general manager of Carlsberg, Scotland, the prize going to Mike Closer, the new UK mountain bike champion, and he deserved it. So that's the new sport of mountain biking, and what a tough sport it really is. We've had a marvellous weekend here on the estate at Rothiemurcus, and we found two very good first winners of the Carlsberg UK Mountain Bike Championship. Sally Hibbard from Leicester in England, and Mike Closer from California in the US of A. Still, 2 hours after Mike Closer crossed the line, riders were coming home off that 60-kilometre route. It's been a tough day for all of them. We've had a great time, but for now, it's goodbye.